What's up Raiders, Bionic here, welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video where we are going to obviously talk about the Pyxniel fusion. So I have the plan for you guys, but also have a couple tips and tricks on how to hopefully complete this for the least amount of resources spent. So I'm not going to say free to play, but still, it is doable for a free to play player who is well advanced in the game and you have enough resources saved up. So let's first quickly go over Pyxniel herself. She looks amazing. Right, I mean, these animations, the swords, everything, she looks totally amazing. I definitely will be getting her. I've made it a goal to get all the fusion champions this year, and she's the last one on my list, so I'm definitely going to do it. Looking at her kit, I thought she was going to be almost a must for Sorath the Frostbiter in Doom Tower. She might still very well be useful for that, but I think her kit is mainly built for the arena, especially with the aura that we have, and the way that she can counter the freeze debuffs, plus apply some of the freeze debuffs, right? So combine her with a Torment, and perhaps even a Drexstar or any sort of like HP burn champions for like added synergy with the Torment. I think this is going to be a very annoying team to deal with, so it'll be interesting to test that out. However, I will point out that she requires a whopping amount of books. I think it's like 18 or so, which is just too much. All the fusion champions lately have been apparently going up in the amount of books that we need to max out their skills, right? And personally, I just can't keep up with this, even with the content creator perks. There's just no way for me to book all these fusion champions. So we'll see if she can work without all of those books. Now, I'll quickly also talk about the other champions, because if you're not going to go for Pyxniel, there's some really interesting champions in here that you might want to get, all right? So this guy, you could get an extra copy of, Baltus, right? I don't think I would go for him personally. He's not a game changer on my account, but a decreased attack A1, the bigger version, on a 40% chance is decent. We're not looking at a Tyrell or a Sepulchre Sentinel, but it might be useful for some of you guys, all right? We also have AoE right here, and then a Provoke, which could be interesting for Kul'Dath, the Magma Dragon, for the Doom Tower. Then we have this one right here, Alaric. Not too excited about him either. I don't think I would push for an extra copy of him. We have the ability to remove 2 random buffs or steal the buffs on a single target. It has its use, but again, not my favorite champion. AoE decreased attack. I think like a Stag Knight here is better than him, so probably not going to push for that. But this guy here, Gerhard, whatever, the stone guy, looks like he's going to hit pretty hard. Plus, we have the stun on the A1. We have the ability to buff before we attack a champion with increased crit rate and crit damage, but we also ignore defense up to 50% if the enemy has an increased defense buff. And on top of that, we are immune to these debuffs, which is crowd control, but apparently I guess it only happens once, then we go on a cooldown, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see this guy, just how hard he can hit, sort of like a sniper. I'm thinking like Septimus, Knight Errant, or Errol, or whatever, I believe. So I'm pretty sure if I can, I'm going to try and get an extra copy of that guy. Then we have the Void one, which you cannot get an extra copy of. But if you're not going to go for Pyxniel and you manage to get this guy, he looks like he'd be interesting for the clan boss. Leech on the A1. We have a 75% turn meter increase, self buff, right, as we take damage. But as we take damage, it is going to trigger our passive, which is going to reduce the cooldown on his A3, which has decreased defense and weaken, the better versions of this. And you can book this to a 4-turn cooldown. So in my opinion, this guy might be really good for the clan boss, because you also book this to a 100% chance of success, and he's Void. I don't think he's going to work really well on a counterattack because of like this, but it might still work out. So if you guys want to get this guy and work him in your clan boss team, might be a good option. Then we have these same rare champions. This is the first time we've seen this. Again, if you're not going to go for Pyxniel, then you might want to hang on to some extra copies of these champions. Some of them have interesting sort of kits overall. Certainly not game changers, at least not for my account. But like, for example, one of them, if I'm not mistaken, has AoE A1. That's always interesting. You put a stun set on this guy. And then we also have decreased max HP, which is good for Borgoth. So you might want to work on that champion. I believe there's another one here somewhere that has enemy max HP reduction, right? This one right here, Peg Sticker. So if you are going for Pyxniel though, you got to get them all, and including the rare Void champions, which this one is sort of like a healer. We have a revive on a 5-turn cooldown once fully booked. could be interesting for you guys who are just starting out. Pantera, who looks pretty amazing, but I don't see her being that much of a game changer, at least not for me. We do have a couple of them that have a reduce turn meter on the A1. That's always useful for the bosses in the Doom Tower. You know you can control the turn meter, but it's not enough. I think that Allure will outshine all these champions every day. And on top of that, you have Cold Hearts, but if you don't have those champions, maybe you can start with these ones right here, okay? All that being said, let's go over the fusion plan. So, by new standards, which I'm basically comparing to Vergumcar, I'm gonna say this fusion is relatively easy, almost doable for a free-to-play player if you have enough resources saved up. So here are my couple tips and tricks for you guys as you're about to undertake this challenge. Number one, we're starting with a Champion Chase tournament, which is a 2-chance sacred event. All right, where you can get an extra copy of this guy, which I did not write correctly, but you might not also need to go all in with your sacred shards, and you might actually want to keep a sacred shard or two for the summon rush if you're only going for the first 2 milestones. The reason for this is because the Champion Chase tournament, if you've saved up extra fusions, for example, your Rosin, maybe you got your Broadma, maybe you can do an extra copy of Relic Keeper, or maybe you've decided to hang on to your Drexstar, maybe you still got Elegaius, Burgoth the Malformed. Basically, those are all free points. If not, you can always go all in with mystery shards if you have enough of it and get the rare champions that you need. If you want to push though, most likely you would have to use some of your sacred shards. But for the summon rush, it's a 10 chance event. And I'm not a fan of using shards during 10 chance events, right? So you can also do mystery shards here instead for 785 points. That's typically what it is. I have a screenshot here for you guys for the Vergumcar fusion, 785 points for the rare champion. At 3,000 points, you would get an extra copy of the epic champion, but you'd be getting Alaric, not exactly on par with a Fane. So again, I'm not gonna push for the extra copy of the epic on this one. But for an extra copy of Gerard here, which would be, I believe, around 3,000 points, if I'm not mistaken, or so. I think down here you see that I have 3,000 points, and it looks like I'm about to grab the extra legendary tome. If I'm not mistaken, this is in fact the 3,500 point milestone. So for the rare, it would be, the epic, sorry, would be about exactly that, 3,000 point, and then the usual rare is a little bit lower than that, okay? So I use the same values that I had for the Vergumcar, and it said 1,000 points, and then 2,500 points for the epic, right? So it might be a little bit different, but again, expect somewhere around those values. All right, for artifact enhancement event, I typically say to save about 7 to 10 million per event for a total of about 15 to 20 million for both of them. Should be doable. Again, if you have a lot of gear ranked up to level 15 ready to go, it might be even less. As for the Dungeon Divers event, the way I usually calculate this is to or look at the milestones and then calculate the amount of points, or the energy, sorry, that I would need for those points. And so you get usually 0.75 point per energy spent, which means you need more energy than the milestone points that you see. So for example, we have one that's live right now. The first milestone is at 1,500 points. The second one is at 3,850. So that means you need a total of about 4,800 energy. It is doable. You basically get that for free during this Dungeon Divers event. Obviously, you are doing the tournaments at the same time, so you're effectively completing 2 things at the same time. Still doable. Then we're going to have the second one, which has just 1 rare champion. You're probably going to need somewhere around, for this one, it would be more than this, so I probably got that wrong. It would be 3,500 energy. That's a typo. Let me quickly change it for you guys. To get your 2,800 points. I'm saying about 2,800 points because you have 1 milestone. I'm not necessarily expecting this to be the same as the one where we have 2 milestone points, all right? So be careful with that. But again, if you're doing these Dungeon Divers event, you're most likely doing the tournaments at the same time. It should be relatively easy to complete. However, for the champion training event, there's always an overlap. That has not changed. So you always have like 1 or 2 tournaments that are overlapping with a champion training event. If you have a lot of food saved up, it's easy to do. But if you have to rank up food and then you can't do the tournaments, that is usually where you end up having to spend right? You might also have to spend some gems to do your potions, but if you have enough of those saved up, then it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Still, if you got to spend a couple gems, 100 gems, 1,000 gems to complete this fusion, it's still a good deal in my book, right? I covered that many times before. For the champion training event, though, I'm thinking the last milestone you're going to need to get for Korzad, one of the Void Rares, is going to be around 10,500 points. Again, doable, but it's still a whole lot of work in real life time. That's also a concern for any fusion event, is that you got to focus on this quite a bit during those 2 weeks. Champion Chase Tournament, we kind of covered. Again, you might want to push to go all the way up to a Legendary Tome. Great Classic Arena takedowns are usually a gimme. And then as we see with the Spider Tournament, we need 1,800 points. That is usually less energy spent if you're on level 20 dungeons. You're effectively getting about 1.1 point per energy spent when you're doing level 20 dungeons. If you're doing like 17 to 19, I think it's roughly about 1 point per energy spent. So therefore, I'm calculating about 1,650 energy for each tournament. But don't forget, this is the same energy you're spending for the Dungeon Divers event, right? So I don't think it's going to be a major issue, okay? So pretty standard Friday night, 2-chance sacred event. We're going to be streaming on Twitch. If you guys want to join for that, fantastic. Hopefully we get some pretty good champions, or that you guys get some good champions. But yeah, basically that is it. Okay, a quick overview of the plan. Again, still doable. I want to know if you guys are going for Pyxniel. Do you think she's worth it? I know that some of you guys are saying she isn't. Way too many books to book her. I agree. I even can't keep up with the content creator perks. But still, getting them all for me was a goal. So I'm totally going to get her. And we'll try and use her. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll catch you guys later.